the wave of the future, the long-awaited third wave of virgin souls are now finally incarnating on Earth. In fact, most souls incarnating today are third wavers or their forerunners, to help accommodate for the next step in the evolution and expansion of the human consciousness. The first few forerunners started to arrive roughly 100 years ago as scouts to make preparations for the third wave. Their talents were many and varied and appropriate for the task. From about 1940 onward, these souls with their special talents became known as the Indigo Children, and began to arrive in larger numbers. The Indigos came to prepare for the arrival of the third wave of virgin souls who have never been to Earth before. All Indigos have only little karma from previous lives to deal with, and they have guts and many talents. From about 1998 or 99, the third wave of virgin souls finally began to arrive, and were called Rainbow, Crystal, or Starseed Children, as well as many other names. First, a small trickle arrived, but since 2010, they have been coming in much larger numbers, taking every opportunity they could to incarnate, using mostly grown-up Indigos as their parents. What made it possible for the third wave of virgin souls to come to Earth was the severe limitations put on souls reincarnating from the lower realms of the afterlife or from the other side. The third wave have no karmic burden or accountability to the Earth dimensions or other Earthlings whatsoever. They are all virgin souls. They are angels incarnated, just like both the first and second wave were when they first arrived. However, they are all born with a built-in moral compass, because the veil of forgetfulness that other souls have is torn in twain. This allows them clear memory recall to every bit of learning from past experiences in other dimensions and from the higher consciousness. They have, for hundreds of years, been observing the Earth and its people and systems. They are totally fearless towards strangers as well. Rainbow Children are representing the next state of human evolution due to their expanded conscious awareness. They are all spiritual giants. They have a clear view of the big picture. They know when people deceive and lie to them, as well as genuine kindness. They clearly sensed people's true attitudes. This gift, as well as many of their other gifts, is usually revealed as they grow older. Their enthusiasm is demonstrated in their creativity. The Rainbow Children are to be the builders of the new world, using divine will. They are fearless and are pure givers, ready to fulfill mankind's needs. They have a lot of empathy, and possess the ability to discern what others think and feel. They are unique in the way they see things and will not conform in order to fit into a broken society. They possess wisdom and a high level of awareness way beyond their years. The life purpose of the Indigos was to bring awareness of the old systems that no longer works, expose the injustice, and rally for change. They possess a low tolerance for people and systems that are not authentic and are deceptive, as well as with incapable people who have authority without a good cause or reason. The Rainbow Children will ensure that we, mankind, all earthbound souls using human bodies, again, soon, to a degree, will become fully conscious of our ability to communicate with, and fully understand our relationships to the creative forces, the universal spirit, our source, God, as well as being able to use the creative force constructively in the physical world. We had this awareness previously during the early time in our history, and it brought us what? Destruction. The Lemurian and Atlantean civilizations perished. This misuse brought on the destruction of our many great cultures and a long, karmic, soul journey, through the pain and confusion that resulted from our selfishness and self-centered focus on our own free will, without regard for the will of the Creator and the will of others. Since that time, mankind needed to journey up through raw physicality, with separateness, ego, and selfishness, to experience and learn to understand its destructiveness and futility. That period is reaching its climax now, where selfishness and separateness has become extreme by some and apparent to many, Now, as the cycles come around again, we are at a time where the level of consciousness of the arriving third-wave souls and their close relationship with the creative force will teach us once again to regain these blessings of full consciousness. How will we use our powers this time? Before we despair that humankind is going to misuse these opportunities again, let's remember that many enlightened souls, even a Logos, a fully conscious soul, has arrived as the third wave firstborn, leading the third wave, and to prepare the way for this rebirth in consciousness and perfection. Most overestimate the power of the physical world and its leaders. The unseen, heavenly forces have much greater power and will overcome the world's darkness and selfishness, breaking through with an enlightenment that will transform this realm for thousands of years. The so-called Battle of Armageddon, symbolically described in the writ of the Bible, began just before the turn of the century. It is not a war fought on earth, as many erroneously think. It is a spiritual struggle between the so-called forces of light and forces of darkness, that will continue for about 1,000 years in Earth time. The reason for this struggle is to prevent souls from the lower afterlife realms from reincarnating back to Earth. Souls with low vibrations, who have been selfish, egotistical, separate, and evil, and have a large karmic burden from previous lives, cannot enter the physical realm now. And by preventing souls from the lower afterlife realms from reincarnating, only enlightened souls with little or no karmic accountability are permitted to incarnate. Only indigos and the virgin third wavers are entering now. The end and final result will be 1,000 years of building a world of peace and enlightenment where all humble, kind, compassionate, and loving people will eventually become fully conscious, bringing heaven on earth, which is the objective. In other words, good people will be given a chance to perfect themselves and reach spiritual perfection without the burden of selfish egotistical abusers, deceivers, control-mongers, faulty scriptures, and erroneous orthodoxy, taking advantage of them, and stalling their spiritual evolution. After about 1,000 years or so, souls from lower afterlife realms will be permitted, once again, to reincarnate back to Earth, but by that time the so-called Kingdom of Heaven will be established. As we all know, the physical world, at the present time, is mostly controlled by selfish intellectuals and greedy control entities, darkness. They are in control, simply by fooling and using the perhaps less aware, but good, kind, trusting, and loving people. The reason why they want to be in control is another sad matter. However, the pearly gates to and from the spiritual world are totally controlled by the gatekeepers, archangels imbued with higher consciousness and love, and by stopping the selfish and egotistical souls from returning or reincarnating into the physical world, and only letting the indigo with little karma and the third wave of virgin souls enter, they are saving the physical world as well as the spiritual world. The wheat and chaff are truly being separated as you read. The gatekeepers are differentiating between souls that have made the grade by being unselfish and kind, and those who haven't by being selfish and egotistical. The selfish ones will be forced to get rid of their selfishness and narcissism in rather unpleasant ways, before they will be allowed to start from scratch again. You see, what they didn't choose to learn through wisdom they will, sadly, now have to learn through pain and suffering. Before the year 1998, all souls allotted to the earth had equal opportunities, but diverse accountability, having different karma from previous lives. Some gravitate toward more and more selfishness and less compassion, which lowered their conscious awareness, and some gravitate toward higher conscious awareness, by being more kind, loving, and compassionate, which is truly what raised their consciousness. The lower conscious forces are the souls that are selfish, hateful, vengeful, narcissistic, greedy, and jealous, that love power over others, who lack remorse and empathy, who like to be served, and have very little conscious awareness and compassion, and hence, cannot incarnate for the next 1,000 years or so. And this is where we are now. The Earth is inhabited by several groups with different levels of consciousness, some with compassion and love who want to serve others, who are selfless, harmless, humble, righteous, and loving, and those who want to control others, who are selfish, harmful, greedy, and self-righteous. In other words, when all the selfish and egotistical souls leave their physical bodies this time, and soon they all will for sure, their souls will not have an opportunity to incarnate for the next 1,000 years or so. They will be in a state of volcanic slosh, in total frustration, with plenty of time to reflect and remember all the things they have done, said, and thought in this world. They will have to re-experience all the feelings they have induced in other people when they were incarnated, and re-experience their self-made lower dark and selfish thoughts, their hateful spoken words, and their evil actions, but, worst of all, they will be together, on the same level, with like-minded selfish souls, and that I can assure you is the real hell. In fact, that is all they can do for the next 1,000 years or so. Unfortunately, they, in their stupidity, most likely won't go out with a whimper, they will try to leave with a bang. In this transition period, they will rule the world, and before the last of the selfish souls leaves Earth, there will be world events that can only be described as apocalyptic, a period of purification involving many natural and man-made disasters, such as wars, economic collapse, and socio-political unrest. The primary difference between the time of Atlantis and now is that those who are not free from their karma, free from the need to reincarnate, will have no bodies to return to after the Earth changes. Every soul who has been incarnating since the turn of the century is, as a group, more spiritually advanced. There are simply not any selfish or evil souls amongst them when they are born, like there used to be. With all the separateness, ego, and selfishness we see in the world today, if you are not totally disgusted, disillusioned, and have learned its fruitlessness, you will not belong in the new community of Earth in the future, or for a long time to come. If you are disgusted, withdraw or distance yourself from it all. You are in this physical world, but you are not from this physical world. We are from the spirit world, all of us. We are factually all aliens. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. The third wave has the laws of God in their hearts as explained in the writ of Jeremiah. They need no middlemen such as priests, teachers, rabbis, evangelists, politicians, leaders, or elders. Their spiritual intuition and insight is an inner knowing and unshakable. It will be a new era of enlightenment and peace, when the one divinity within all humans will manifest fully on earth. The biblical references to the title of Christ, the Anointed One, the Messiah, or Logos, is a reference to the divine consciousness within human beings. In this respect, it can be said that Enoch, Melchizedek, Jesus, and Buddha, and many others, were Christs, because they were a manifestation of the divine nature in humanity. This divine nature is also known by other titles in various religious traditions, such as Dharmakaya, Braham, collective unconsciousness, and universal or superconsciousness. This union of the human with the divine is the ultimate goal of everyone, and is possible for all to achieve, given enough time. Keep in mind, any consciousness wanting to manifest on this physical level must do so via a physical body. Thus, if the highest consciousness of the divine hierarchy wanted to manifest on this level, it would have to send a portion of its universal consciousness into a physical body, such as the story of Jesus. Think of the analogy of wearing a space suit in outer space, or a deep-sea diving suit for being on the floor of the ocean. In other words, in order to manifest adequately, in a useful fashion, on the physical level, a consciousness, soul, needs to occupy a recognizable and acceptable physical manifestation, that is, a physical human body. Edgar Cayce, a true saint, psychic, spiritual teacher, healer, and prophet, as well as John Penal, my beloved brother, foresaw that a logos would return in the year 1998 or 99, as did Nostradamus. Critics who are not very familiar with the Cayce material have pointed out that 1998 has come and gone, and the second coming has not occurred. Such critics wrongly expect the second coming to happen when Jesus appears in the sky with a chorus of angels, while Gabriel blows a horn and dead bodies crawl out of their graves. This idea of the resurrection was the result of a misunderstanding of the concept of reincarnation, the ancient concept of birth and rebirth. Let it be revealed that, as the War of Armageddon started just before the turn of the century, a logos or a universal conscious soul reincarnated and has now returned to a physical body. And just like 2,000 years ago, they are trying to find and kill him, before he grows in wisdom and stature. He was the firstborn of the second wave as Emilius, Adam, and now again the firstborn of the third wave. It is also important to distinguish the logos, universal consciousness, from the soul named Jesus. Any person in the world has the potential of becoming a logos, fully conscious, but it was the soul known as Jesus who actually incarnated as a logos and, therefore, became a Christ on earth. All of mankind has the very same potential if they choose. Christ is not a man, Christ is the universal consciousness, logos, available to all, buried deep in our own mind as universal consciousness, but for most, not yet realized. Forget all the useless structures, bizarre rituals, symbols, silly traditions, funny garbs, weird hair, peculiar hats, and religious arrogance, that amplify some scriptural and/or religious and/or tribal superiority complex, chosenness or exceptionalism, and self-righteousness. Religions without values, or with false values, as useful as it is to a few, appear to make man a cleverer devil. Just be kind, compassionate and loving. And be genuine. You see, if you haven't made the grade when you leave the body you are now using, you will have a real and very unpleasant problem to deal with, when you do leave it, in the near future. Humanity will, very, very soon experience the day of reckoning. The beautiful fat lady is singing. You save, redeem, and heal yourself. You always have. You always will. You were created with the power to do so from before the beginning of the world. So, realize that we have all already been saved, and we saved ourselves, because we were designed to self-correct like the rest of the Creator's universe. No religion or scripture can save you. The Savior is the universal consciousness buried deep within each and every soul. This is also what the second coming is all about. Again, becoming universal conscious. Remember the wise words about the conscious awareness. For those who have a lot now, to them more will be given, and to those who only have little now, what little they have will be taken away. The more we exercise our individual consciousness and free will for self-interest, self-gratification, self-centeredness, and self-consciousness, the more we heightened our sense of self apart from the whole. This separation of self from the whole is what people call sin. Right is helping and being kind. Wrong is not only hurting someone, but not helping when you can. Compiled in love, I am humbly. Rene